In a democracy, the core promise is straightforward. The people have the authority to govern themselves. You get a voice in shaping the rules that dictate how your society functions. But a democratic system on its own doesn't guarantee equal treatment for everyone. Historically, majorities have used state power to inflict severe trauma on vulnerable minority groups, like the forced assimilation of indigenous children in residential schools. A legal system built entirely on identical, universal rules is often blind. It might treat everyone exactly the same in the present moment, but it ignores the deep disadvantages and historical damage that shaped the past. The machinery of the state doesn't naturally correct these blind spots. It only shifts when ordinary citizens push back and force the system to adapt, a process called civic participation. The democratic process relies on this constant feedback loop. Without citizen intervention, the state can drift away from the needs of the diverse groups it is supposed to represent. Citizens apply this pressure through two distinct tracks. The first is informal civic participation. This happens outside the official channels of government. This looks like the actions people take in their everyday lives. It means showing up to support a local cultural organization, or donating money to a community cause, and gathering in the streets to organize a protest. It also includes drafting a petition. By gathering thousands of signatures on a single document, a community can clearly demonstrate unified support for a specific issue. Today, informal action relies heavily on social media campaigns. Digital networks allow a localized issue to bypass traditional gatekeepers, rapidly organizing a movement and broadcasting it on a national scale. There is a catch to this method. No matter how loud a protest gets, informal action does not legally require the government to rewrite its policies, but it serves an essential function. This grassroots pressure acts as the early warning siren of a democracy, dragging overlooked issues directly into the public spotlight, where leaders can no longer ignore them. That brings us to the second track, formal civic participation. If informal action is the warning siren, formal action is the official machinery of the state. The primary formal method is voting in an election. This is the direct mechanism citizens use to hire or fire government leaders. Citizens who want a stronger voice will amplify their influence by joining a specific political party to shape its platform, or by stepping up to run for public office themselves. Unlike a protest, formal participation is bound by clear procedural rules. It involves debates, committees, and legislative votes, directly resulting in hard, legally binding policy shifts. This track is the necessary mechanism that translates raw public opinion and grassroots pressure into actual enforceable authority. We can see exactly how these two tracks interact by looking how marginalized groups secured permanent legal protections in Canada to correct the damage of assimilation. The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, cemented in 1982, is a legally binding outcome of this targeted civic participation. Indigenous and Francophone groups spent decades utilizing both tracks, combining informal protests with organized formal political strategy to demand recognition. That dual approach successfully forced the creation of collective rights. These are special, highly specific legal protections granted exclusively to these founding groups to preserve their distinct cultures. Today, those rights serve as an anchor in the courtroom. They prevent the majority from using universal rules to erase minority ways of life. By aggressively utilizing every available tool of civic participation, these citizens forced the government to write a new definition of fairness directly into the Constitution. These two systems function as the interlocking gears of a single democratic machine. Informal action sparks the conversation and rallies the public. Then formal action takes that momentum and writes it officially into law. Maintaining a healthy society requires continuous engagement across both tracks. To guarantee a government remains accountable, fair, and representative of the people it serves, citizens have to constantly engage with both sides of the system.